If you are traveling,
if someone in your party is traveling with a mobility device, please line up behind that person, allowing them to lead the group through the gate at the end of the ramp immediately in front of you. As you approach the loading platform, please note that it is divided into two distinct zones. The area with handrails is the loading zone, or Zone 1. Zone 1 is where you will stand just
before we get to the fun. Please keep all hands on feet and legs inside the vehicle at all times, and please remain seated throughout this entire journey. Now that is going to include my little friends as well, but they are going to be allowed to sit in your laps if you would like them. Now if you look above you, that is going to be an animal spotting guide. That's going to be what you might see out there today. Now I can't guarantee everything, but I think you'll see quite a bit. Now that guide is going to be there in case for some reason I miss an animal. You'll be able to look up there and see its name. Now this first area is going to be the Little Ituri Forest. Animals do use their natural camouflage to blend in, so make sure you're keeping an eye out. There is going to be an okapi. It is currently behind the bush. You may see it here in a second. Now they are going to be the closest relative to the giraffe, and we know this based off their skull structure. And then if you look over to the left, those are going to be greater kudu. Now we can know that these are females because they don't have any horns. Now sometimes okapis are a little bit harder to spot, and that's because their species is known to be super shy and timid. Now coming up on the left, there is going to be a black rhino. Now it is going to blend in with the rocks. Now black rhinos are a more solitary species, so that's why we'll see them off on their own. That's going to be completely okay. Also, we know that this is a black rhino based off of its lip structure. They do have a more triangular shape to their lips, and that does help with their eating. Storks. Now they will communicate to each other by rustling their beaks. Also, they have a 9-foot wide wingspan. That's going to be almost as wide as our safari canopy today, but not quite. We are now in the Safi River region, where animals spend most of their time in or around the water. So keep your eyes peeled for any bubbles, ripples, or even shadows beneath the water's surface. On the right are some pink-backed pelicans. Now they do get that name because during mating season, that patch on their back is going to turn pink, as well as a little spot on their beaks, and that's going to kind of look like they're blushing. It does look like there's also a Nile hippo off to the right. There's going to be some more on the left. Now hippos do hang out under the water. That does help them stay cool. And when they hang out in a group, that is going to be called a bloat. Now hippos don't actually swim. Instead, they're going to run, jump, and walk across the bottom of the water. some Nile crocodile. When fully grown, they can reach 16 feet long. When they have eggs, they will roll them around in their mouths to help hatch them. And then when they do have babies, they'll keep them in their mouths or even sometimes on their backs. And that's going to help them stay protected from any nearby danger. On the right, we are going to pass by a baobab tree. Now they do look a little funny, and that's because they stay leafless 9 months out of the year. It's going to help them conserve water down in their trunks. Now animals do love these trees, and they'll do anything to get to that water. Sometimes they will even eat the bark. Now that baobab tree is also going to tell us that we're entering into the savannah. Coming up on the right, there are some Hartman's mountain zebra. Now there is going to be a few little babies as well. Now those baby zebras are going to imprint on their mother's stripe patterns. That's going to help them identify her in a group. And a group of zebra is going to be called a dazzle. If you look to the left, they're a little bit hidden, but there are going to be African painted dogs. If you can see that bamboo, they're going to be right in front. Now, they do like to hunt in groups. It makes them very successful. Now, their coat patterns are going to be unique to each individual, and those patterns can also be identified up to miles away. On the left, there is going to be a sable antelope. Now they do get their names based off their coat color. Also, you can see that their horns are pointed backwards. So that's going to help them stay protected from any predators that may want to jump on them. Now, zebra stripes are going to be much like a human fingerprint, so they will be unique to each individual. Now these giraffes around are Maasai giraffes, and we know this based off of their spots. You can see that they do have a more rough and jagged edge to them, rather than them being circular or rounded. Now giraffes also have a prehensile tongue, and that basically just means finger-like. That's going to help with their eating. That's going to help them reach leaves off tall trees, or even help them if they need to bend down below. Spot a few Ankole cattle. Now they are going to be the largest domesticated species on the reserve. Sometimes they're known as the Watusi cattle, and that's just after the first people that named them. a honeycomb-like structure to them. That's going to act as ventilation. That's going to help cool their body temperatures down. Now on the left are a few more giraffes. Now they really only average about 30 minutes of sleep each. Now as we finish rounding this turn, there are going to be greater flamingos on the left. They are going to be the largest species of flamingo. As we get closer, you may notice a few gray and white ones. Those are going to be the babies. And if you actually look above, you're going to be able to see some African elephants. Now it does take about 2 years for baby flamingos to get that full pink color. That's going to come from their diet of brine shrimp. Now elephants do flap their ears. That's going to help them cool down. And then a group of flamingo is going to be called a flamboyance. That is a mud wallow. Typically you would find white rhinos hanging out in it or around it. It does help them stay cool, but it's also going to act like a natural sun protectant and bug repellent for them. Now if you look to the right, you should be able to see some ostriches hanging out by that truck.
Yeah.
Now unlike other birds, they're only going to have 2 toes, whereas most others have 3 or 4. Can already spot a cheetah on the left. There's going to be a few more hanging out on the left side of that hill, kind of behind a tree. But they're a little bit harder to spot. Now, cheetahs are going to be the fastest land animal. They can run 0 to 60 in just 3 seconds. Also, unlike other larger cats, they are going to like to hunt during the day. They don't necessarily roar either. Instead, they're going to run, jump, and walk across the bottom of the water. I'm sorry, that's hippos. Cheetahs are going to purr like house cats or chirp like birds. I can already spot a lion. Now they do typically spend about 16 to 20 hours of their day sleeping and resting, so that's what we find them doing most of the time. They're going to be the most active around dusk and dawn. I can also spot some white rhinos up ahead. Now, white rhinos are going to be more social with each other, so they will hang out in groups, and that's going to be called a crash. It's also going to be a water buck. That is going to be those shaggy antelopes, and we know that those are females because they don't have any horns. Now, when lions roar, it can be heard up to 5 miles away. Also, it's known that the male lions will stay back and protect the territory and the young, while the females go out and hunt. On the left are going to be some warthogs. Now they are going to be some of the largest burrowing animals, and despite their little legs, they can actually run 35 miles per hour, which is going to be faster than a giraffe and the same speed as a white rhino. Now, white rhinos do have a pretty poor sense of sight, but their sense of smell and hearing is going to be excellent. I can spot some ostrich eggs off to the right. Now they are going to be incredibly strong. An adult human could stand on one without it breaking. And just one of those eggs is going to be about 3 pounds, which is the same equivalence of 2 dozen chicken eggs. Some Nigerian dwarf goats. They are just hiding all in this back corner. It is pretty common for farmers to keep goats as pets. However, that doesn't necessarily mean we should. I don't think my mom would be too happy if I ever brought a goat home. Now, goats are going to be a great reminder for us to choose our pets wisely. And we can do that in multiple ways. We can look into their dietary needs, their energy levels, their vet care, and even how much room they may need to comfortably live. Now, if you can't provide, that's going to be totally okay. You can still donate or volunteer at your local shelters and organizations. If that still isn't up your alley, you can be an advocate for any animal species out there in the world. A lot of them do need that these days, and you can do that by checking out books at your local libraries or just a quick little Google search. Now, there's also tons of pretty cool documentaries out there to watch as well. Together is sadly almost over, so if you have any personal belongings, now would be a great time to gather them up. And if I have any wilderness explorers on board, you did just ride on Symbol 1. I do have one more Swahili word for you to learn. It's going to be kwaherini. It means to go well, because here on the reserve we don't like to say goodbye. It's far too sad and final. I do hope you enjoyed your time on the safari. Feel free to join us again. No two are ever going to be the same. And I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day as well.